Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Gordon, and I remember the exact night everything changed. Not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was quiet in the wrong way. We were sitting at a restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just a place we had gone to before. Judith had picked it. That should have been my first signal. She barely touched her food, kept checking her phone. Not nervous, just ready. I put my fork down and looked at her. Say it. She didn't even pretend to be confused. She exhaled, straightened in her chair, and said, "I'm leaving, Gordon." Just like that. I leaned back, studied her face. No tears, no hesitation. For who? She met my eyes. His name is Brad Mercer. He's the new regional director. I nodded once. How long? A few months. I let that sit between us. The waiter passed by, asked if everything was all right. I told him it was fine. He didn't believe me, but he moved on. What about Lucas and Sophie? I asked. They'll be okay, she said quickly. Too quickly. I leaned forward then, lowered my voice. No, answer the question properly. She looked irritated now, like I was slowing her down. They'll adjust. Kids do. That told me everything I needed to know. I wiped my hands with the napkin, placed it beside the plate. Calm, controlled. So you've already decided. Yes. And you're not asking. You're informing. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I stood up. Not angry, not loud, just done. Then listen carefully. If you walk out of here tonight, don't come back expecting anything to be waiting for you. She shook her head slightly, almost like she pitied me. You're overreacting. No, I said. I'm being clear. For a second I thought she might hesitate. Look down, reconsider. She didn't. She grabbed her purse, stood up, and said, I deserve to be happy too, Gordon. I held her gaze. Then go be happy. She turned and walked out of the restaurant like she was heading somewhere better. I sat back down and finished my drink. When I got home, Lucas was helping Sophie with her homework at the kitchen table. Where's Mom? Sophie asked. I hung my keys by the door. She's not coming back. Lucas didn't ask anything. He just looked at me, and I could tell he understood more than he should have. That was the night our family changed. Not when she left. When she chose to. The next morning, nothing paused. That's the first thing people get wrong. Life doesn't slow down because something breaks. Lucas and Sophie still had school. Both needed breakfast. Bills were still waiting. I made eggs that were half burnt and toast that was worse. Sophie pushed her plate a little and asked, Is Mom coming tonight? No, I said. Not tonight. Lucas didn't look up from his food. She's not coming back, is she? I met his eyes. No. He nodded once and kept eating. That was the last time he asked. I worked construction back then. Long hours, rough crews, no room for mistakes. I started taking extra shifts, nights, weekends, anything that paid. Not because I wanted to prove something, because the numbers had to work. Mornings were mine. I got them ready, packed lunches, checked homework. Evenings were a rotation. Cook, clean, fix whatever needed fixing. I didn't have time to think about what was missing. You either handle it or you don't. Sophie struggled the most at first. She would sit by the window some nights, quiet, waiting without saying it out loud. One night she asked, Did I do something wrong? I pulled a chair across from her. No, this has nothing to do with you. Then why did she leave? I didn't dress it up. Because she made a choice, and it was the wrong one. Lucas stepped in more than I asked him to. He started walking Sophie to school, checking her homework, keeping an eye on things when I was late. One night I told him, You're not the parent. I am. He looked at me and said, I know, I'm just helping. That was the kind of man he was becoming. Years passed like that. No calls, no birthdays, no holidays. Judith didn't exist in our day-to-day life. I moved us into a smaller place, saved what I could, and eventually started my own contracting business. It wasn't easy, but I built it the same way I built everything else. Steady, no shortcuts. Lucas grew into someone reliable, the kind of person people trust without asking questions. Sophie got stronger. Not loud, not emotional, just solid. She learned early not to depend on things that could disappear. I didn't remarry. Not because I was holding on to Judith. I wasn't. I just didn't have room for instability in a house that took years to stabilize. We didn't replace her. We removed her and kept moving. It had been 21 years. By then, the house was quiet for different reasons. Lucas had his own place across town. Sophie came by often, usually on weekends. We had a rhythm that worked. No gaps, no unfinished business. That's what I thought. It was a Thursday evening. I had just finished dinner and was rinsing a glass when I heard the knock. Not loud, not rushed, just deliberate. I opened the door, expecting a delivery or maybe Sophie forgetting her keys again. It wasn't. Judith stood there. For a second, I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't recognize her, but because she didn't look like the woman who walked out of that restaurant. She looked smaller, tired, like life had worn her down and didn't bother hiding it. Her hair had streaks of gray she hadn't tried to cover. Her posture wasn't confident anymore, and in her hand, she held a folded envelope like it mattered more than anything else she had. "Gordon," she said. I didn't move. "You're at the wrong house." She swallowed. "I need to talk to my family." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. No audience, no confusion. "They're not your family anymore," I said. Her grip tightened on the envelope. "I know I don't deserve—" "You're right," I cut in. "You don't." She nodded like she expected that. "I wrote something for you. For them." She held out the letter. "Please, just let me see them." I didn't take it. Instead, I studied her for a moment. "Why now?" Her answer came too slow. "Because I made a mistake." I shook my head. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a decision. Big difference." She looked down, then back at me. "I don't have anyone else, Gordon." That confirmed it. This wasn't about us. This was about her running out of options. I took a step back, but not to let her in. "They're adults now. They decide if they want to see you." She nodded quickly. "That's fair. That's all I'm asking." I pulled my phone out and called Lucas first. He picked up on the second ring. "It's her," I said. Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "At the house. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Sophie answered slower. When I told her, she didn't react right away. "Does she sound sorry?" she asked. "She sounds like she needs something," I said. That was enough for her. "I'll come." I told Judith where to meet us. A restaurant. Neutral ground. Public. Controlled. She didn't argue, just nodded once. "Okay." She left. Lucas and Sophie left the house with me a little later. I chose the place carefully. Not the same one from years ago, but close enough to matter. Same kind of lighting, same kind of tables. No privacy. Judith was already there when we arrived, sitting straight, hands folded over the same envelope, watching the entrance like she had been waiting too long for this moment. Lucas walked in beside me. Sophie followed a step behind. Neither of them rushed. Neither of them smiled. Judith stood up quickly. "Lucas! Sophie!" She stepped forward like she was going to hug them. They didn't move. That stopped her mid-step. "Sit," I said, taking my chair. Everyone followed. A waiter came by. I ordered a drink. Lucas asked for water. Sophie shook her head. Nothing for her. Judith didn't order anything. She looked at them like she was trying to memorize their faces. "You've both grown so much," Lucas cut in. "Say what you came to say." No softness, no hesitation. She flinched slightly but nodded. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I regret what I did. Every day." Sophie leaned forward. "Then why didn't you call?" Judith hesitated. "I didn't think you'd want to hear from me." "That's not your decision," Sophie said. Calm, direct. Lucas added, "You didn't even try." Judith looked between them, searching for something. "I was in a bad place back then. I felt trapped. I thought if I didn't leave, I'd never be happy." I leaned back, watching her. "So you traded your family for a chance at something better." She looked at me. "That's not how I saw it." "That's exactly what it was," I said. Silence settled over the table for a moment. Then Sophie spoke again. "Where were you when I graduated?" Judith opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Lucas followed. "Where were you when Dad was working overtime? When things got tight?" "I didn't know how to come back," Judith said, her voice weaker now. "I was ashamed." Lucas shook his head. "No, you stayed away because it was easier." That landed. Judith looked down at her hands. "Brad, it didn't work out. He left years ago. Things fell apart after that. There it was. Not regret. Failure." I spoke without raising my voice. "So now you're here because there's nowhere else to go." She didn't deny it. Sophie leaned back, arms crossed. "That's not a reason to come back." Judith picked up the envelope with both hands like it could fix something. "I wrote everything in here. The truth. Please, just read it." I didn't reach for it. I didn't need to. But Lucas did. He didn't ask. He just took the envelope from her hand and opened it right there at the table. Judith leaned forward. "Maybe you should read it privately." "No," Lucas said. "If it matters, it can be said out loud." He unfolded the pages slowly. The paper was worn, like she'd handled it too many times. The restaurant noise carried on around us. Plates, low voices, glasses, but our table had its own silence. Lucas started reading. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I broke our family." His voice was steady. No anger, no emotion, just clear. Sophie watched him. I watched Judith. Lucas continued. "I thought I was choosing a better life. I thought I deserved more. I was wrong." Judith lowered her head. He kept going. "I followed your lives from a distance. Birthdays, graduations. I saw pictures online. I didn't reach out because I believed I didn't deserve to be part of your lives anymore." Sophie let out a quiet breath. Not relief, just acknowledgement. Lucas turned the page. "Brad left me when things got difficult. I lost everything after that. My health, my stability, my friends. I've spent years alone, thinking about what I threw away." A couple at the next table glanced over. Lucas didn't lower his voice. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want a chance to be near you again, even if it's small, even if it takes time." He finished the last line and lowered the paper. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Judith looked at him, waiting. Lucas folded the letter once, but didn't hand it back. "You said you followed our lives," he said. "Watched from a distance." She nodded. "Yes. And you still chose not to show up." Her lips parted. No answer came. Lucas leaned forward slightly. "That wasn't shame. That was a decision." Again. Sophie added, "You were there when it was easy, not when it mattered." Judith's voice broke a little. "I was scared." I finally spoke. "You weren't scared when you left." That hit harder than anything else. She looked at me like she wanted support. She didn't get it. "I just want a chance," she said, "to fix something. Anything." Lucas shook his head. "You don't fix 21 years with a letter." He slid the paper toward the center of the table, but not back to her. "You don't get to rewrite this?" Sophie nodded once. Judith looked at me again. "Gordon, say something." I met her eyes. Calm. Final. "You already said everything that mattered. 21 years ago." She sat there, holding nothing, and for the first time she understood that this wasn't a conversation. It was a conclusion. She didn't accept it. 3 days later, she showed up again. It was late, around 9. Lucas and Sophie were both at my place. We had started doing that more since the restaurant. Not planned, just natural. The knock was different this time, faster, less controlled. I opened the door and saw her standing there, same clothes as before, just more worn. The envelope wasn't in her hand anymore. "Gordon," she said quickly, "please, I need to come in." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, same as before. "No," I said. She looked over my shoulder toward the house. "I just want to talk. Just 5 minutes." "You had your chance." Her voice tightened. "I don't have anywhere to go." I studied her for a second. Not sympathy, just facts. "That's not my problem." She shook her head, almost desperate now. "I've been staying in a motel. I tried calling people. No one answered. I don't have anyone left." I nodded once. "You made sure of that." She stepped closer. "I know I did wrong. I know I don't deserve anything. But they're my children." "They're not children," I said. "And they're not yours anymore." The door opened behind me. Lucas stepped out first. Sophie followed. They had heard enough. Judith looked at them like she'd just found something she lost. "Please, I just need a chance." Lucas crossed his arms. "You had 21 years of chances." "I was ashamed," she said again. Sophie shook her head. "You keep saying that, like it changes anything." Judith looked at her. "I'm still your mother." Sophie's expression didn't move. "No, you're someone who left." That landed clean. Judith turned to Lucas. "Say something." He didn't hesitate. "You want a family now because you don't have one." "That's not true." "It is," he said. "If your life worked out, you wouldn't be here." Silence. She looked at me one last time. "Gordon, please." I stepped forward slightly. Not aggressive, just clear. "You walked away once," I said. "Everything after that belongs to that decision. You don't come back because things didn't work out." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry this time. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked quietly. Lucas answered before I could. "Not here." I opened the door, not for her, for my kids. They walked inside without looking back. I closed the door behind them, and this time she didn't knock again. She was gone by the next morning. No note, no call, nothing left behind. I looked through the window once before heading out for work. The street was empty. Whatever she had left, she carried it with her. Inside, the house felt the same. No tension, no questions hanging in the air. Lucas was at the table, going through emails on his laptop. Sophie was making coffee like she always did when she stayed over. No one mentioned Judith. That told me everything. I poured myself a cup and sat down across from them. You both good? I asked. Lucas didn't look up. Yeah. Sophie nodded. We're fine. No hesitation, no confusion, just clarity. After a minute, Sophie spoke. She looked different. Lucas closed his laptop. She looked like someone who ran out of options. I didn't correct him, because he wasn't wrong. Sophie leaned against the counter. I read the letter again last night. Lucas glanced at her. Why? I wanted to see if I felt anything different, she said. I didn't. That was the end of that. We moved on with the day. Lucas left first. Sophie stayed a bit longer, helped clean up, then grabbed her bag. At the door, she paused. You okay? She asked me. I looked at her. I've been okay for a long time. She gave a small nod, like she expected that answer, and left. The house went quiet again. Not empty, just quiet. That night, I sat in silence, the way I always did after everything settled. Same posture, same stillness. Back then, I thought she left a hole. I was wrong. She removed herself, and we built everything without her. When she came back, she thought she could step into something that was still waiting. It wasn't. We weren't the same people. We didn't need explanations. We didn't need closure from her. We had already closed it ourselves. The difference between that night at the restaurant and now was simple. Back then, she walked away in control. This time she walked away with nothing, and we stayed exactly where we belonged. Thank you for watching.